Reverend Don Boudreau, and an absolute fabulous pianist. Good morning. I haven't spoken in front of this many people in a long time. My name is Chris Gang, and I'll be your service leader today. Reverend Don Boudreau will be giving this morning's presentation. A quick shout out to acknowledge the versatility of our minister, who has gratefully agreed to run cameras today as we're trying something a little different. He not only can walk and chew gum, he can ride a unicycle. Thank you. And so I just want to welcome you in this room, as well as everybody on Zoom, to the Lcuuf Sunday service. Our announcements, as most well know now, were on a slideshow before the service. Hopefully you got a chance to read some of them. And they were also sent out by email yesterday with the order of service. For those of you who are visiting us today, you can find this information on the website at www.lakechapalauu.org. A few notes. Our building is open for all in-person services. We continue to offer services on Zoom each Sunday for those who are unable to attend in person. And now let's have a special welcome for our visitors. If you're visiting with us for the first time or have returned or reconnected with us after a long absence, we invite you to say your name and tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, use the Zoom raise hand feature, and we'll ask you to unmute. If you're in the room, just raise your hand. We'll start with the people in the room. Do we have some new visitors? Oh, we have a lot.
Hi, I'm Mary Helen Montgomery. I've been away for 2 years. I hope this pandemic is really over now. And I'm so joyful to be back and to see everyone that I knew and new people that I didn't know. So, hurrah!
Morning, welcome.
I'm Michael, and this is my grandson, Aiden, and we're from San Juan, Cosala.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's Sally, and first time here after passing by many times. I live in Ahihic.
Hello, can you hear me? I guess. My name's Judy, and I live here, right around the corner, and it's my first time here as well. And I've lived here about 20 years. Thank you.
My name is Barb Eldridge. This is my first time here, and I live in San Antonio. I've been here about 3.5 years.
See, I told you all the new sign would help. That chocolate.
Hello, I'm Jane Lazar. I live in Ahihic for about 1.5 years now, and it's my first time here.
Hi, I'm Belinda Howell, and I live in San Antonio, but I'm only a tourist for long term.
Welcome. Go ahead.
I'm John Stoffaker,
I'm Barbara Schott.
and we're members at First Church Houston and visiting.
Wonderful. We're very familiar with that.
My name's Joe Gamma, and we live in Ahihic. And I'm Elena Desjardins, and I live in Ahihic.
Again, welcome. Where am I missing?
Hi, I'm Tim Whiting. I live in Riberas, and I went to college with this dude.
I'm Sarah from New Braunfels, Texas, and I attend UU in New Braunfels.
Anybody? That's great. Do we have visitors on Zoom?
Yes, we do.
We have Zoom.
We have an echo. Oh, sorry. Lorna, would you introduce yourself?
Ooh.
Hello,
Zoom.
everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am Mary Helen Montgomery's daughter. It's been even longer for me since I was in your church. I actually was, gosh, she could probably tell you, maybe 15 years ago, when I was visiting her in Mexico. And we, of course, went to UU Church here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where I am. And that's where she usually lives, although now she's moved out to the Irish Hills still in Michigan. But it may be a surprise to her. I don't think I told her that I was going to be attending today.
Well, welcome. We're definitely glad you did. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay. And just a brief note, we offer a wide variety of services on various topics, presented by our members, outside guests, as well as our minister, Reverend Matt Alspa. We hope you will return to sample a variety of thought and belief that we present here each Sunday. And now we have some opening words.
Just a note that all the words were ones that I've written, so whatever you hear other than his ad libs are mine. An animal thing. It is an animal thing I do, primordial, basic, boggy. I slip beneath the earth's crust, and I hide in the darkness of deep caverns. It is an animal thing I do, volatile, eruptive, chaotic. I explode through caverns, beyond gravity, homeward to distant stars.
Our chalice lighting words today are by Viola Abbott. As we light the chalice and fully embrace the sacred space created here this morning, please hold in your hearts the Unitarian Universalist principle which calls upon us to respect the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. Now let us light our chalices. Each week, we take time to remind ourselves that we belong to a community which cares for each other. The sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones is one way that we practice holding one another in community. We speak what is in our hearts, sharing any significant joys or sorrows in our lives, because there's power in the sharing. We will start with the folks here in the room, to give those on Zoom a chance to type joys or sorrows into the chat box, to be read aloud after we do the room. First, let's recall the joys, whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others. Are there any joys that people would like to share in the room today?
Yes, I had a bachelor son that lived for 13 years with his dog, and 2 months ago, he lost him at 13 years. And I heard last week, with no prompting from mother, that he's got a new puppy. And I am so pleased.
That is a joy.
I am David Rosh, and I visited with a gifted healer yesterday for about 2 hours, and I celebrate that.
I am Phyllis Rosh, and I have been gifted with the opportunity to teach 4th, 5th, and 6th grades in a government school, and they haven't had an English teacher for the last 10 years probably. So I'm teaching English there, and I'm very excited about it. And it's just a joy because I have done that most of my life. I've taught school. So I'm really excited, and it's something I really love to do.
Any other joys?
My husband and I, John Stoffaker, are visiting here with Kat and Robert, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay, do we have joys to be shared from Zoom, folks?
Yes, we do. First of all, from Johannes in Cincinnati, a joy. While checking out old videos from the LCS Open Circle, we found the presentation on May 5th, 2021 of A Melody for Change by Michael Reason. So informative and fascinating. How lucky we are to have such a talented musician as music director for LCUUF. From Devora Kelly, Devora says, I previously shared my joy at heading to New Hampshire for my son's 40th surprise party. The joy I felt when both he and my grandson realized I was there made the trip so worth it. The party was a huge success. When this is read, I shall be winging my way back to Ahihik. Another joy. From Kathy Coaches, please light a candle of joy for Bob and me. On Wednesday, we will celebrate our anniversary. 32 years married and 37 years together. And from Fred Kessling, a joy that today is the 18th anniversary of my move to Mexico. And those are our joys.
Thank you. Now let us voice our sorrows, concerns, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. Those on Zoom are welcome to type sorrows,
Wait,
concerns,
I'm
again
sorry.
into the chat box. If you have not
I'm
done
sorry.
so. Again, we'll start with the folks here in the room. Do we have sound? We can squeeze them in, I'm sure.
I'm Kate. I would like a candle of concern for Lou and Trudy. I know Trudy is working as host of the Zoom this morning, and I wish them both very well.
Hi, I'm Colleen Beery. Please light a candle for my sister-in-law, Katie, who's been in the hospital with ulcerative colitis. It's not been pleasant.
I'm very concerned. My stepmother is having a very serious surgery this Wednesday, and I am hoping and praying that she comes through it all right.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, folks on Zoom, and Trudy, if you had other joys, go ahead and.
Yes, we have another joy, and this is from Lorna Davalos, who is Mary Helen's daughter. My joy is my resilient mother, Mary Helen, drove to Mexico alone. Although it was a difficult trip, I am joyous that she made it with the help and support of her LCUUF community. Her son, Craig, and I are forever grateful for all of your support. And now we do have some concerns. Our first concern is from Liz Mulder, who says, hopefully the Dems will hold on to the House and the Senate. And a concern from me is I am anxiously waiting for Tuesday's election results. I hope for a peaceful acceptance of what they are, and at the same time, I fear for what they might be.
Is that all? Okay. And this candle from our care team represents those sorrows that are too raw, too difficult for us to share aloud. So many of us had losses, partners, children, grandchildren, pets, losses that remain present with us every day. So many of us have burdens, anger, fear, and frustration, all those things that weigh heavy on our hearts. We light this candle for all those unspoken sorrows. Now let us share a moment of silence to hold in our hearts both sorrows and joys that have been shared this morning. This morning we have a special guest. Reverend Boudreau is a retired Unitarian Universalist minister who has lived with his husband Juan at Lakeside for 10 years. They share their home with 7 dogs, 2 cats, a snowy white lab, a mouse named Algodon, Cotton, and with whatever cow, horse, turtle, dove, snake, etc. that passes by their front door. Don writes monthly for an article for our local magazine, El Ojo del Lago, and has 10 books on Amazon with 4 more in process. He will share lessons he's learned from animals and play some jazz piano, which you've already heard a sample of, to illustrate the theme. And for my part, I met Don maybe the first couple weeks I moved to Lakeside, so I'm very pleased that we finally got him as a speaker here at LCUUF.
And you will note that the Catholics are greeting me with the bells. I just want to say this. I think you're so lucky to have the minister you do. I just wanted to say that. And I know you all do so much, but I've gotten to know him pretty well. And I know, yes, and we're wearing black. We've changed kind of the order a little bit. But between us, Chris and I have 124 or 5 years of being a Unitarian Universalist. And there have been a lot of changes, but we're still standing. I welcome many of the writers from the writers group here. In Ahihic, they're here today, and old friends and a college alumnus friend of mine from Lafayette College. He became a doctor, I did not. Let us be in a spirit of meditation and having worked a little bit on Cape Cod as a developmental minister there not that long ago, there was something that happened that really struck me. There was an article in the Boston Globe about this, and it's dated September 7th, 2015, and it simply said, "Sharks beaching themselves are very unusual. Sunday's incident was probably the result of the sharks becoming confused in the shallows close to shore." So this is from the sharks' point of view. They did the best they could on that Sunday morning at the beach. Those humans, mostly strangers to each other, some 100 of them, they never would have connected had I not come into their lives. They were just there on that late summer's day, enjoying themselves in the sun, sand, and surf. But there I was, having gotten lost in the sea. Me, a great white shark in a place called White Crest Beach in a town called Wellfleet. I was dying. It was my turn. A creature just like all those people trying to save me, some with buckets of water, some with prayers. There were tears too, and perhaps fear. After all, my type is known for killing humans. And there was curiosity and lots of cameras. Still, so many tried to help me, digging that trench and pouring water over me, tying that rope to my tail and trying to drag me out to sea with the help of a boat. It was a wonder to observe those humans overcoming their fear of me and trying to keep me alive. They're so strange. Had I been swimming near them, it would have been a different story. They would have panicked then and gotten out of my way. Perhaps they even would have tried to kill me. But I was harmless by the time they saw me, having drifted onto that beach, having lost my way. Well, it was nature having its way with me. After all, I am but part of nature, and I still am, although I now take a different form. Those creatures who tried to revive me are nature too. And they are on the planet for just a bit of time. Nobody knows how long, and then they too will transform. It was just my time, but it was a wonder to have my life, to have it ended surrounded by so many of those humans who didn't really know each other, but who came together to try to help me, a creature that causes them to fear for their lives. So it just goes to show that even if you don't succeed in what you are attempting, it is worth the effort nevertheless. The attempt to save me failed, but in the process, people bonded together for a common cause. Their individual selves faded away. They forgot their fear of me. Most of them even felt sorrow for my plight, even those who thought of me as the enemy. Oh, those humans, so strange, so wonderful. I want us just to have a moment of silence, remembering all our beloved animals, with us or not, in the past, or perhaps in our future too. And also be aware that after that I will play some meditative music called Blue Boat Home, which is often used for Unitarian Universalist memorial services. It is my belief that animals teach us a lot of things. And so I wrote a book about it. Many of the things today are from that book. I'm not trying to sell it, just to tell you that since I've moved here, I've really connected with the animals. Not so much humans, but who are animals too. But if you have an animal and it passes by our house, we'll probably take it in. Anyhow, so this is just a little short little vignettes about experiences I've had over the years. I've hundreds of them, and I keep writing about animals. I have a lot more stories. This is lessons from the critters. Animals are our teachers, if we allow them to be so. They instruct us in the ways of our emotions. They talk to us. They share our suffering. They show their appreciation. They manipulate us to get what they want. They are drama queens, earth movers, couch potatoes, marathon runners, introverts, ball players, our therapists, jugglers, adventurers, bullies, and our mourners. They are overly eager to please, stubborn beyond our comprehension, jealous of others, and protective of our well-being. They are crybabies, guardians of our secrets, and keepers of wisdom. Some bring out the coward in us. Others bring out our nurturer. All in all, they are the best friend any human being can have. And they become us, and we become them. In fact, animals can teach us, and we can teach them. Too often we forget to share in that responsibility. As the writer Anatole France said, until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. We're approaching the American Thanksgiving time, and so a couple of these readings are about Thanksgiving, or about being thankful. This is called Giving Thanks in the Middle of the Night. I was 25 years old and was coming home. Believing my father's wisdom when he defined home as the place they have to take you in, whether or not they want to, I plot myself upon the mercies of my pater familias and his newly extended family. My mother had died shortly before. In addition to my father and me, the new household consisted of an 89-year-old matriarch, her unmarried 60-something daughter, the daughter's some kind of a boyfriend who came to visit one night 25 years before and never left. A long one-night stand, I guess. A minor bird, a mute one, various genetically mutated canines named Leo, Bobo, Brownie, and Jaja, and a bald-headed robin. Granny loved animals. Granny, the daughter, and the boyfriend all lived on the main floor. My father and I lived in the basement. The animals lived anywhere in the house they wanted to, as did an extended family of roaches. And it seemed to me that during my 9-month stay, anything breathing in that domicile had her or his own television set. Almost like everyone living with an extra body part. Certainly the cacophony of the household was apparent to anyone passing on the street. So there I was with an extended family that I would not have chosen, but having no money, nor any immediate way to make any, I joined the menagerie thankfully. although not particularly joyfully. My space was less rambling than that allowed the animals or insects. Because Granny slept in the bedroom, I don't hear it, that had been mine when I was a kid. I was relegated to the basement storeroom, although at that point, the entire house was a storeroom. Even the bugs had extra baggage. My new bedroom included a dozen or so 1930s suits, which my father hadn't the heart to part with. They hung here and there from the rafters like the ghosts of Chicago gangsters. There was an infinity of other articles of used clothing stuffed in whatever space was available, all moldering in the darkness of the subterranean closet I called my sleeping quarters. Boxes and barrels of unknown items were precariously stacked up to the ceiling. Because my dad was a self-employed salesman and also a bookie, part of the mafia, you know, he had stored sundry merchandise there, all waiting to be sold, some of it having waited for years in this cave of miscellany. Toy bears now graying from the ageless dust of the prison house, inflatable Santas waiting for the next Christmas, fake jewelry sporting inflated price tags. There was one tiny stuck window at ground level that I could never open, although there was just enough visibility for me to see Leo, Bobo, Brownie, and Zsa Zsa relieving themselves on those rare occasions when they left their TV soap operas. My bed was an old mattress on top of one half of an even older ping pong table. I had to climb onto a metal trunk in order to get into bed. And once there, I had to be careful not to hit the pipe directly over me. Once I'm asleep, I'm a deep sleeper, but neither pipe nor rocket's red glare could disturb me. So I thought nothing of having a pipe connecting to Granny's personal toilet, just hanging a few inches from my head. Until one memorable night. It was 3 a.m. when people, dogs, birds, roaches, and even thieves are supposed to be asleep, but not Granny. That's because Granny just had to go, if you know what I mean. Maybe Granny had gone before at this bewitching hour, but I never had heard her. But this time, whoosh, went the toilet, causing me to bolt upright, a la Jack in the Box whose time had come to spring. Hitting my head on Granny's metal underbelly, so to speak, I simultaneously collapsed the ping pong table, causing me to cascade to a multitude of inflatable Santas. My yelp woke the dogs, who began to yap, thereby doing their duty and warning the neighborhood of an approaching apocalypse. Human noises followed, grunts and, "Oh my gods!" and here and there a "Shut up, you mutts!" coming from a somewhat relieved Granny. Even the robin screeched her anger at being awakened at a most deadly hour. Still, no word was uttered from Mr. Mina. It was at this point that I realized the only thing I could do was laugh. And I did so uproariously, sitting there in the pitch blackness amidst the plastic St. Nick's with the ghost of Al Capone joining in the merriment. I laughed. How wonderful it was to have any roof over my head, where people I did not always understand, but I loved nevertheless, shared the same roof, where we could experience a moment together, a ludicrous piece of eternity in a world which often forgets to be appreciative. I realized in the darkness what it meant to be part of a family, to sometimes be uncomfortable, to hear flushing toilets and barking dogs, to bicker and bellow, to sometimes to be quite invigorated, to laugh your way to the stars and share deep moments, to have people around you that you can trust and who are respectful of who you are. And now, 50-some years later, they've all gone the way of princes and paupers. Even the minor bird has flown to a distant shore. But that family deep within me, it still lives deep inside, and they come alive again whenever I remember them. So family, whatever it means to you, may you and your family serve each other well. Life is too fleeting not to accept family wherever and whoever you can find, even in the middle of the night. I'm going to go to the other mic. Okay, that's what I want. I want to hear myself. Did you? If you didn't hear that one, I'll read it to you again. No. I just have a few more. This one occurred. I can move around. I asked them to remove the pulpit for today. Okay? All right. All right. This occurred around the time of 9/11. Thank you. Outside my little window, there's a Far Side calendar in our kitchen that depicts an offbeat cartoon for each day of the year. The one for this day shows two butterfly collectors observing a newly caught specimen. The one holding the bug has a big grin on his face, and he proclaims to his companion, "An excellent specimen, symbol of beauty, innocence, and fragile life. Hand me that jar of ether, will you?" Truly, nature, with or without our assistance, has the ability to turn on a dime. A beautiful sunny day can have a sudden cloud. Your lovely dark hair might turn white overnight. The exquisite patch of berries can quickly be gobbled up by a bear, and some human beings can flip from good to nasty very quickly. This brings me to what I witnessed from the window of my study at home. We were living in Sarasota. A family of raccoons high up in one of those ancient pines that share our house's property. And they were making a racket. And for good reason. A Florida polecat was chasing them right outside my little window. 2 days later, George Bush came to town. And on the day of 9/11, I was just very close to where he was, where he had the book upside down, if you remember. So 2 days later came the horror of 9/11. The world was shocked, and all of us were changed for all time. Then Tropical Storm Gabrielle struck Florida shortly thereafter, but that event was inconsequential for most of us, given the horrors of and the tragic horrors of 9/11. It took days to clear the debris from many branches that had fallen from the trees because of the tropical storm in our that hit our yard too, including a huge branch that once held the raccoon's home. Nature turns, oh, how she turns. I've not seen the raccoons since they lost their home. 18 months later, I looked out the same window and saw some of the largest birds I've ever seen. That was 8 months later. About a dozen of these large birds, 3 on the ground and the rest in that same still noble, although somewhat diminished, pine tree. What an exquisite sight, I thought. The grandeur of a Florida morning. Then I saw that one of the birds on the ground was tearing at something with its beak. And then I realized that the birds were vultures that had come to have a meal on whatever animal had died in our yard. Raccoon, Florida polecat, my attitude, like nature, turned rapidly. Then I reasoned that I am nature too, and that I too have various expressions of being, some far less noble than others. A couple days after witnessing this feast of vultures, I discovered some bones near our orange tree. I gathered them up and placed them in the middle of the overgrowth between other pines, and I wished the decedent well on its journey. That Far Side calendar cartoon reminds me that we sentient creatures can have our life snuffed out at any moment. That we are like the butterfly in the cartoon. There is the story of one of the ancient Taoist teachers, Zhuangzi, who wrote a parable about a dream. In it, he dreamed he was a butterfly. When he awoke, he wondered if he was now a man who had had a dream about being a butterfly, or if he was really a butterfly who was now dreaming he was a man. Indeed, you and I are the polecat and the raccoons, the vultures and the animal upon which they were feeding. We are the sun and the cloud, the berries and the bear, the butterfly collectors and the butterfly. We are nature. We are fragile. Go gently. This is called The Day the World Did Not End. This occurred in 1982 in Florida, in New Orleans, where I was a minister. My biorhythmic mechanism is more fragile, more reliable than an alarm clock, rooster, or rising sun in informing me when to wake up. So before I turned in for the night on March the 9th, 1982, I listened to the news that reminded me the next morning around 4 a.m. the Jupiter effect would cause the world to end. Of course, this doomsday announcement made me adamant about getting up in time to be obliterated. I'm not one to merely sleep through such a cataclysm. So I shot bolt upright at 4 a.m., as if my internal biosphere had heard Chicken Little's dire prediction whispered into my very soul. Well, if the sky is about to fall this morning, I thought, I certainly want to be in on it. So I raced into the street in my pajamas in order to watch the grand show. The sky was beautiful on that cold, crisp morning. And I saw more planets grouped together than I had ever seen before. So if I was going to die along with the rest of the planet I lived on, at least I had an exquisite final image. Yes, I was ready. But about 5 or so minutes of just standing there in my PJs in the cold, and I started to get restless. Nothing was happening. And it looked like I was the only one out there in the street waiting for the end. Then I heard something. Thank God, I thought. It's starting to happen. I was almost jubilant, feeling relieved in an odd sort of way. I'm never one for unresolved situations. But when I turned toward where I had heard the crash, I saw a dog rummaging through a garbage can that the animal had apparently just knocked over. Well, this wasn't a hungry, emaciated wolf, nor was it Old Yeller with distemper. In fact, it wasn't a street dog at all, but just my own little puppy, Penny, a 6-month-old reddish cocker who had followed me out of the house without my being aware of it. I called to her, and she came bounding over. I bent down to pet her and asked her if she was ready for the end of time. She gave me a look as if she were asking me if I'd lost my mind. I laughed, and I swear she did too. Had enough of this silliness, I asked her. How about us getting some milk and cookies? And she wagged her tail. So we went back inside the house and directly to the kitchen. After I got us the treat I promised, I turned on the radio in case the world had ended and Penny and I had missed out on it. But not a word was uttered on that subject by the newscaster. So he was talking about how the Hershey bar was going to be increased in size and in price. And I realized that there were far more important things than the world ending. So to celebrate the Hershey bar and all other important things, bigger than those grand cosmological matters I can't figure out, I shared the last cookie with Penny. I turned off the light and we went to bed. Okay. Many decades later, Juan and I found ourselves in Puerto Vallarta. That would have been 2012, when I supposedly retired. And I'd like to share this story with you. A big birthday surprise. Remember, this was 10 years ago. In 2 days, I will be 68 years old, and discovered this week why I am having dizzy spells and fatigue again, similar to what I had before I had a pacemaker implanted 3 months before. The Puerto Vallarta cardiologist informed me that there is an anomaly on my EKG, both when I am resting and when I am running on the treadmill. In short, I dip instead of ascend on the EKG reading. She told me that I shouldn't be dipping. Dipping means trouble. Dipping is a death knell. It indicates possible coronary disease that I didn't have before. I only had electrical problems, not plumbing ones. And my brain has shifted as well. I didn't need a doctor to tell me that. It's gone south, not just south of the border, but more in the direction of my stomach. I now think with my stomach. I eat to live. Although by eating too much, I'm eating to die. I used to feed my brain by contemplating mathematical theorems, quarks, dark holes, bat sonar, and the seat of consciousness. Now all I think about is where the closest taco stand is. Welcome to the newly retired. 2 days later, it's my birthday, February 27th, 2013. I have survived to 68. Tonight, Juan and I will go to one of my favorite restaurants, Restaurante Las Carmelitas, up in the mountains, overlooking Vallarta. It's way up, 1.2 miles from the Malecon, straight up, like flying. Being up there always makes me feel invincible, as if I were in charge of the universe. A few margaritas enhance my self-deception. The view is spectacular at sunset. Hopefully the celebration tonight will make me forget the electrical versus plumbing competition occurring within my heart, where the two opponents are vying for the pleasure of being the one to knock me off. But barring sudden death, I am going to enjoy my birthday dinner later this evening. I'm not sure, however, if I'm going to enjoy my annual birthday morning run, something I started doing on my 17th birthday. Nevertheless, I am up early, ready to hit the Malecon, ready to take on, if not the world, at least a few miles of it. I step outside. It is glorious weather. The current time of year is when the temperature and humidity are low for the city and the rain is non-existent. It's perfect for me. And I have a great run on the Malecon. But instead of turning back home, when I usually do, I feel so energized that I keep running in the same direction. And I run into the sand, which slows my pace. But I am running. I have lived another year. And then about 100 yards in front of me, I see a gathering of people. As I get closer, I see that they are excited. Some are pointing out to sea, which causes me to look there. And oh, how wonderful. Humpback whales. They've come from the Arctic to reproduce, and they are cavorting right in front of us. What a wonderful birthday surprise. I stop and I marvel at the exquisiteness of nature. And I feel so very fortunate to be alive. I watched the whales a long time, overwhelmed with gratitude for being alive. When I finally start home, renewed by what I have just experienced, I decide that it isn't quite my time to die. But if that happens soon, I will feel that my life has been a pretty good run. So I will keep taking heart pills, toasting tequila shots in moderation, and thanking whatever powers that might exist that I'm still here, and that I and all of you existed in the first place. I have one more short piece that I'd like to read. How many of you have cats? Big ones or little ones? Not that many. Oh, I would think if you're a real Unitarian, you independent cat people. Okay, how many have dogs? Oh, Jesus. A lucky dog is in need of our help, by the way. And I'm going to say something about that just in a second, but there's no money for a lucky dog, you know? Okay, we'll talk later. Let me talk about this cat, this wonderful cat of ours, and then I will, I'm all discombobulated. I'm still on the beach in Puerto Vallarta, I guess. Okay. Okay. The last part of the sermon. The best laid plans of parson and cat. The cat that allows us to live with her has assertive moods, many of which manifest themselves in the middle of the night. And I am convinced that during these last few weeks, our little one has consciously had a plan to wake me up so I can share her nightlife. Is this love or what? The reality is, however, that I do not want to hop, skip, jump, and pounce on shadows, or destroy Venetian blinds, or scamper after house lizards at 3 a.m., or ever for that matter. Instead, I want and I need my sleep. I'm old. I'm old. Whine, whine. But when the feline maneuver, a plane dive bomber onto my head occurs, I'm startled into a fully alert status, ready to attack the offending enemy. I thrash with my feet. I grunt. I groan. I rudely change my position in bed. These are all instinctive acts for which I am not responsible. I know that some individuals would not be at all bothered by Miss Kitty's pillage and plunder escapade in the dead of night. Such people, some of you, sleep through anything. And being around them or you, I feel quite inferior. I bet those kinds of folk they are the same people who always pay their bills on time, complete projects, and were voted the most likely to succeed in high school. Any of you? Yeah? Any valedictorians here? Nothing. Bunch of losers. Losers. I was... Talk to you later. Okay. Undoubtedly, they will be the first in line to inherit the kingdom of heaven, while I will be at home trying to catch up on my sleep by taking a cat nap, thereby missing my chance to be among the chosen. To prevent the latter from happening, I fixed a nice little bed one night for our little kitty and placed her gently in it after she had gone to sleep on my nocturnal slumber pad. I hope beyond hope that she would find the new birth up to her standards and thereby refrain from using me as her personal trampoline. And that's what she did, at least for a while. But that caused me to oversleep, and I missed a very important engagement. Even when you think you figure life out to your satisfaction, you can really mess it up. So that's what I want to say to you upon the occasion of this forthcoming holiday season. Think about it like this. Sometimes by not trying to control circumstances, we can obtain wonderful results. Think about this while you're trying so hard to make your midwinter celebrations exactly right. Let things go. Let the turkey baste itself. Let the obstreperous but lovable relative play her role. Better yet, don't even have turkey. Save the turkeys. Let the other driver have the right of way, even though you know, because you're a gringo, if you are, that it really is your right of way. And let the television commercials try to convince you that you need to get ready for the post-Christmas sales, even if you are Zoroastrian, or just fed up and don't celebrate Christmas. To try to fight it, to try to control it, to try to make it all go your way might just be the worst thing you can do. Remember the cat. Thank you. Okay. Josh Groban has a song, and I'm just going to play a little bit of that. You Lift Me Up. Dedicated to all the animals.
I guess this one's not on right now. All right. Can I get closer? Oh, that's better. Okay. My name is Kat Barnett, and I'm here this morning to tell you why Robert and I pledge money to this fellowship. My husband and I never went to any kind of church for more than 30 years after we got married in 1977. He had gone to church sometimes as a child, and my parents never went to church. So for those years, Robert and I just enjoyed having Sundays to sleep in or later to do things with our children. Around 2010, we suddenly noticed that we had almost no friends anymore. Most of our friends had moved out of town. We lived in a changing neighborhood. Many foreign-born people were moving in, and some of them didn't speak English. Also, many of the homes around us were now rental property. The neighbors changed more often than they had when I was growing up. It was just harder to make friends. I began looking for a church. I had gone to the Church of Christ with my grandmother and aunts when we visited them, and to other churches with friends occasionally. I always enjoyed that. Everyone was friendly. At that time, I had not noticed that while the church people were always friendly to me because I was much like them, people who were different in some way were not always welcomed, or they may have been somewhat excluded. It took me some time to see that. That even happens in Unitarian churches. I believe that to a lesser extent. I went to quite a few different churches, and I mostly enjoyed the experience, but always heard something from the pulpit that would make me angry, usually about homosexuals. I have had quite a few gay friends over the years, and after hearing something like that, I would try another place. After a few months, I went to a Unitarian church in Houston and kept going back. It took me about 6 months to understand what they were doing. I always thought that church meant that everyone believed the same thing. I had to adjust my thinking. The inclusiveness of the Unitarians was something I had never seen anywhere else. I heard a Unitarian theme. We don't have to believe alike to love alike. There were Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, pagans, and even atheists. Atheists in church? Amazing. And there were also a lot of gay and transgender people because they were fully accepted there. It was my kind of place. My husband and I joined the church and were rewarded with many like-minded new friends. One of the requirements to join the church was to make a pledge of money. If you are struggling or you are in debt, the amount of the pledge does not have to be very much. Anyone can pay a few dollars a month, and we all have the time to do some of the work of the church. The important thing is that it's our responsibility as members to enable the church to be there for people who need it, like my husband and me so many years ago. Of course, the money to build, furnish, and run churches comes from the members, and most of the work is done by volunteer members. That means that everyone who joins should give generously of their time, talent, and treasure. If you have some money, don't you want to use some of it to make sure that this wonderful, inclusive place will be there for everyone who wants to come? Some information from the treasurer. As of today, our pledge thermometer is showing that we have received pledges for 2023-24 totaling 5,000? No. 500,000. 72. Anyway, little over 500,000 pesos. If anyone has not yet pledged for next year, please fill out a pledge form, which is on the welcome table, and put it in the offering basket or send your pledge by email to treasurer@lakechapaleuu.org as soon as possible. And Kat, again, we all need to pledge. And what I have found is that after Robert and I pay our pledge over the year, it is very easy to increase the amount the next time. If you are paying $100 a month already, a pledge of $110 for the following year is not a burden. I challenge all of you to add 10% or more to your pledge this year over last year. Pledges ensure that the fellowship can make a budget and know that there will be enough money to carry out at least some of our dreams. My big dream is for our UU values to be felt in the wider community. Other dreams for this fellowship include things like more guest musicians, more guest ministers, and a paid person to coordinate the tech team. What are your dreams for this fellowship? Let your pledge reflect those. May it be so.
Thanks, Kat. There are many ways to be of service to LCUUF. Our time, treasure, and talents are all necessary components to a healthy fellowship. Now is the time during our service when we ask you to share the gift of treasure through pledging and donations. Instructions for payments to the fellowship are on the slide during the announcements before the service. For people here at the fellowship, we'll pass a basket. If you're new here today or you're struggling to hold things together, let baskets pass you by. Your presence is more than enough for us and is a gift to us. And while you're considering your gift to the fellowship, remember that each month LCUUF donates at least 5,000 pesos or more to an organization in our lakeside community. We've given more than that almost every single month this year. We've collected that much. We share one half of the offering collected at the fellowship each week with that organization. For this month, we're supporting Operation Feed, who for over 30 years have had volunteers. The volunteers have been providing food, improving the lives of the very poor and marginalized people of San Juan Cosala. They provide weekly food dispenses to 150 families. To 150 families and individuals who would go hungry without the aid. Many of these recipients are elderly, disabled, and children. Operation Feed also supports new program initiatives like cooking classes, crochet projects, to involve people in developing additional income sources and skills, thereby offering them a hand up and not just a handout. I will say that this past year they've been able to cut at least 20, 30 families off the rolls because of the success of their other operations that have lifted people up. If you're not attending the fellowship in person, please donate to Share the Basket when you pay your pledge. Donate to Share the Basket separately or indicate what part of your donation is for Share the Basket. The offering will now be given and received.
After I do the closing words and then the extinguishing of the chalice, I would like you all to be a little jazzier than I have perceived so far this morning. I started out in New Orleans. Actually, I started out in Southern California, where we didn't sit in chairs. The first time I went to the Pacific Unitarian Church, people were having a cocktail hour on a Sunday morning. You know, it's not all about Boston, or I love Houston, by the way. We're the Houston people. That was which church? There were First Church, and that. So I knew many of your ministers, and I was. Is that yours too? It was one wonderful congregation. Yeah, and I knew also the Emerson Church people, the ministers back there. I'm going back a long time now. I'm in my 43rd year as a Unitarian Universalist minister. So do I do my thing now? I'm not looking at this because I'm not techie at all, as you can tell. Okay, this is it's called Prayer for All Us Critters, and it's just a blessing to the animals. It's a blessing for all of us, really. Blessed are you, my fellow creatures. O dog, O cat, O bird, O fish, O snake, O lizard, O gerbil, O hamster. We honor your right to be on this planet with us. O cow, O horse, O elephant, O pig, O raccoon, O baboon, O walrus, O whale, know that we care for you. O deer, O zebra, O monkey, O gazelle, O hippo, O rhino, O platypus, O anteater, we wish you a safe and gentle journey. O mousey, O goaty, O orangutangi, O antelope, O elk, O owl, O kodiak, O koala, we hear your fear, and we honor your rights. O animals everywhere, our family, we thank you for the lives you give to us and ask your forgiveness when we needlessly take them. Blessed are you for the joy you give us, the lessons you teach, and for just being yourself. Before the chalice is extinguished, I would just like to say, I know you've heard some stuff about money today, and all of that's important. The animals are, so, especially the dogs from Lucky Dog, there are so many of them which will now not be taken care of. The coffers are at zero because of COVID and the inability to do any fundraisers. So there is a representative from Lucky Dog here, and her name is Barbara Eldridge. She's one of our Ahihik writers, writer from the group, and you can check out Barbara. Looks pretty good to me. And show your shirt there. She's not selling those, but check out the website for Lucky Dog, luckydogLakeChapala.com. I know we're asking for a lot of stuff, but so let us extinguish the chalice. Please stand as you are able. We're going to do some little jazz singing of an old. It's not that old. It's a jazzy song. And in it, you will notice that there's a part about, I wish I were a bird so I knew how it would be free. I've actually played this at a General Assembly in the Unitarian Universalist realm. I was their pianist for the choir there for 7 years of General Assemblies.
So let us first extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame. Wait a minute, We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
you.